With the second open beta for Ragnarok Zero Global, Gravity is giving us a second chance of obtaining all of these pretty cool rewards that, you probably didn't obtain during the first one if you didn't have enough time to play it, because let's be honest, 1 week is not a very long time to play the game and reach level 50. Ragnarok Zero is kinda grindy. So I thought I would make a video on how to level up your class, break it down per class, give you a couple ideas of what places to level at, what gear to get, what stuff to pay attention to, and some useful tips along the way as well. So let's get to it. In this leveling guide, we'll start by talking what affixes are on the gear, in case you don't know that yet. Then we'll move on to the party leveling, then path, like leveling path per class, and end up on some useful links. By the way, shout out to Limbed, who put out an extremely useful leveling guide in paper version, which I'm gonna be using to make the one that you're watching right now. So, affixes. Well, affixes are basically additional stats, random stats taken from a pool of available ones. I'm putting a link on the slide that you can visit and check out more information on that. But in essence, every gear, every single piece of gear that monsters drop has a chance of rolling between 1 and usually 3, but it can go up to 5 in the later game, amount of additional stats or affixes, and the ones that I strongly recommend for leveling are max HP, flee, flat attack, or just flat hit. Well, flat SP is also pretty useful depending on the class. Now, when it comes to party leveling, the situation is quite a bit different compared to like pre-renewal servers, for example. Ragnarok Zero introduces more of a renewal kind of rewarding system that lets you get more XP the more people you have in the party. So the monsters get up to 320% XP, or give up to 320% XP when you have the full party of 12 people. By the way, the XP range between party members is increased to 15 from 10 back in the day. And basically within a party of 12 people you have 27% XP given per person, and the difference between 6 people in the party and 12 people in the party is so minimal that it's always more beneficial to have 12 people in the party, just to increase the kill speed and the amount of monsters being killed at the same time, basically all over the map, right? Next thing to notice, taken from Lind's guide, is that experience in Ragnarok Zero Global doesn't appear to be scaled with level as expected in renewal. So in other words, a monster will always grant the same amount of experience regardless of your level. So certain ranged classes or even groups can take full advantage of this, but there's a notice that this needs to be verified. But in essence, if you can kill a higher level monster as, I don't know, a level 10 guy, go ahead and do that because you're gonna get full experience from that higher level monster. Alright, let's start with the OP boys of first job leveling, which are the mages. So the essence here is that you basically want to get your earth spike and your firebolt. Nothing else really matters. Maybe a fireball if you want to AoE, but it really isn't recommended that much. And you can actually go for Flora's, Parasite, Groves, Steel Shonshons, and whatever else that's higher level, because magic attack is simply just kind of overpowered in the early levels of the game. Here's a section taken directly from Lim's guide. As you can reset your stats and skills for free up to level 40, you can simply start off in melee mode right from the start until you reach Earth Spike to level 1. Head to Culverts and follow the path to get Firebolt to level 10, then reset your stats and max out Int. Head for Anthel, aim being about level 20 and 40, or 30 rather, and be able to one-shot the wolves. Use the lowest level possible for Firebolt, and once you're comfortable, you can go and have a try at Steel Shonshons with Earth Spike level 5. Other possibilities among many include Parasites, Groves, Argiopis, anyway. Note that Auto Hunt will not be your friend on these final maps. I definitely agree with everything he wrote over there, and I also added a stat priority list, which for me would be INT, AGI, LUK, and then VIT. You might have noticed I did not include Dex in it because I don't think Dex is that important for mages, as the current cast times are split into two. You have variable cast time and you have fixed cast time, and your Agi is gonna benefit you a lot more than your Dex would by reducing that variable cast time by a small percentage, and it's not really gonna get you that much additional magic attack either, so just go with strength, Agi, and luck. Next up, Thief and Swordsman. Well, the path for leveling them, can be pretty flexible, but the recommended thing we came up with, I'm saying we because I took the information from Limb and I kind of analyzed it whether or not it makes sense, is the culverts or poison spores, or rather just regular spores in Payon. Then you can move on to Bigfoot, then you can move on to Tarafrogs or Kokos, and then you can end on Orc Warriors and Orc Ladies in an Orc Village, which would be pretty much the most optimal way to go about it. As a swordsman, your biggest friends are of course your Magnum Break and your Bash, and the affixes that you're looking for on your gear are definitely going into your flat max HP. I'm saying flat specifically because percentages are not going to matter in your early level game. Your HP isn't that big enough to benefit from percentages. And your stat spread should be strength, and then Agi or VIT, then Dex, then Int, and then VIT or Agi. So the thing is, depending on the gameplay style you like with the swordsman, you can change the AGI and VIT. Now for the Thief, your biggest friend is of course your improved dodge. You unfortunately have no AoE, so your leveling path is gonna be basically revolving around you being able to survive and kind of auto hunt for the most part, in my opinion. And you're basically bread and butter of your gear is gonna be attack and flee on top of it, and then you can supplement yourself with some flat HP rolls on your armor. Stat wise, I do not recommend using any strength as a thief. You should probably start using strength only as a second job. So I would go with AGI, Dex, VIT, luck, and then at the end maybe some strength, but then again, I do not recommend using any. Now the coolest part of all builds, the gear. So the items you can get early are fairly limited, but thanks to the stats, the affixes that they can get really powerful. Unfortunately for the swordsman, it's really hard to get a 200 sword at early game unless some mage finds it for you by killing metallers. But you can get like bastard swords from Andres, and you can get sabers from soldier skeletons. So both of these are very easy to kill and can roll with really great affixes on top of them already having a very decent amount of attack, which is extremely important in renewal. If you want to know about attack calculations in renewal, you can head over to my channel. I have a whole video on that. And as a thief, you can just go and kill megalodons. They keep dropping Damascus like crazy. You're gonna be finding a lot of them, and so many people will be leveling in Tarafrogs and killing megalodons alongside it that there will be Damascuses all over the market. Next up, the archers. So Ragnarok Zero Global is gonna be a lot of a different experience for archers than you're used to. So archers are super powerful, right? Especially in like the early game. And then when you think about pre-renewal, archers, they're scaled like crazy. I'm still thinking about maybe rolling a hunter, right? But I haven't decided yet. Nonetheless, the leveling path for archers, you have basically two of them. You have a basic one, so start with culverts, go with poison spores, Bigfoot, Tarafrogs, Kokos, Orc Warriors, the most optimal part or leveling path for every class. Or you can go with floras, parasites, and all of that good stuff if you can handle it and if you can have the arrows. That is because you have your advantage of being ranged. If you can survive it, if you can actually hit them, it's gonna be so much easier for you to level up on floras and parasites than any other class basically except for the mage, right? Stat wise, again, very easy. There isn't any surprise here. I would go with higher Agi than Dex, but that's up to you. And then as your third stat, use Int. Remember, Dex gives you a lot of attack when using bow weapons, so it is what it is. Unfortunately, when it comes to weapons, your Gakung bow, which would be the best weapon that you can get for a very long time, is dropped by Argiops. So that's unfortunate, but you can get an arbalest from Steel Shonshon, so you can you can either do it yourself, just try and farm it yourself, or find a mage friend that can kill them for you. But I would also like to mention that crossbows drop from archer skeletons, and crossbows can roll with up to 30% increased attack speed if that's, something you fancy. Now here's a good place to include the cheese merchant. So if you're thinking about, oh my god, I'm gonna run out of SP double strafing or firebolting, well no you're not, because cheese costs like 28 zenny, it weighs like 5 only, and you can buy it directly in Frontera. Shout out to Limb for including that in his guide, because I completely forgot about that. Now on to the ballers of Rune Midgard, the merchants. So your leveling path is basically the same thing, but you can actually go to Anthill and stay there for a very long time, or you can mob poison spores, which is also a very good idea because card revolution is gonna be your friend. Not only that it exists, but it also deals actually very decent damage. I believe it's increased by a decent amount. Also, you do have increased weight, so you can carry a whole lot of cheese that you can basically buy with every single piece of loot that you drop from any monster. And you can never run out of space in your inventory because you have both your card and increase weight limit, which is kind of crazy. You can just carry all of the stuff that you want, and that includes all the consumables that normally other classes would have to keep coming back to town. So definitely make use of that cheese, because you're gonna be spamming the cheese alongside the card revolution and just AoEing everything. This is how I would level my merchant. It would be just so much fun. Right, stats wise, I would definitely go for strength mainly, because well, you just wanna maximize the damage from card revolution. At least until level 40, strength would be the one that I would go with. Then would be agi and dex. Just enough dex so you keep hitting the monsters, of course. Now weapons wise, you're a little bit more at a disadvantage compared to like the thieves, for example, because unfortunately all the good maces and all the good axes kind of start later or come from like fever fields. So your basically go-to weapon would be the hammer, which drops on wolves and archer skeletons. It has a very decent amount of attack on itself, but by default. But if you manage to roll one with a very high attack roll on it and additional flee on it, then it's gonna last you a very long time. Merchant is gonna be probably having a very fun time just spamming card revolution on things and just eating a whole lot of cheese while at it. And now on to my favorite class of the entire game, which is the Acolyte. And for Acolytes, this is gonna be the only time when I say do the main storyline immediately as soon as you can. Like with other classes, you can, kind of skip on it, come back to it later, but Acolytes are kind of iffy at the very beginning. So you wanna go ahead and do the main storyline because the quests give a lot of XP. Then it's your usual route: culverts / poison / spores, Bigfoots, Tarafrogs, Cocoa Groves, and then end up on Orc Warriors and Orc Ladies. Here's the thing, I do not recommend you go full support build. You can reset at level 40 or at level 39 or something to full support and then kind of depend on your party, but until then definitely go with AGI builds and then strength, wit, and just the right amount of dex to keep hitting things. Do not forget that your blessing gives you a very decent amount of flat hit, so that you can actually hit the monsters that you're farming, and make use of your increased agi at all times, even when you're not fighting the monsters, when you're just simply moving around the map. If you're auto hunting, put it out there so that your character keeps moving faster. It's a very big advantage, especially as an Acolyte. You kind of probably gonna be fighting monsters that are a little bit, say, weaker than the rest of the characters, especially at the beginning. So just being able to kill them faster, move to the next monster faster with your increased AGI is gonna make a massive difference. So I leveled an Acolyte in OBT1. It was a bit of a hassle at the beginning, but once I got a hang of it, I got a good weapon and all that stuff, it was just a breeze, especially with a party later. So, but weapons wise, it's basically the same thing as a merchant. Unfortunately, we do not have access to crazy maces. You can buy a stunner from an NPC in Morrock. She, I think it's a she, is in Morrock, somewhere on the right side. I forgot exactly where. But stunners from NPCs do not come with affixes on them, so I still recommend using the hammer with the proper affixes. And really, that's about it when it comes to the Acolyte. Reset at level 40 if you want to go full support. If you don't want to go full support, if you want to be a Chad and play a monk, here you go: agi, strength, wit, and dex. And last but not least, here are some more tips for you. Remember to do the quest line. You can kind of abandon it at the beginning, go do whatever you want to do, but come back to it, especially at later levels, like catch up on the quest line, because the latest, I'm gonna say latest, in OBT latest quests are gonna give you so much XP that the amount of grinding that you're gonna have to do at the last level is gonna come down significantly. And also the quest lines are gonna lead you to the mission boards if you do not notice them by yourself, and the mission boards offer additional dailies and weeklies, which also give a decent amount of XP and sometimes also decent rewards. Also, the quest line itself gives decent rewards as well in terms of potions and like boxes of potions, all that good stuff, right? And also during the OBT2 for Ragnarok Zero Global, do not forget about the free cash points you get every day by doing the daily check-ins during the OBT. So like in day 1 you get 20,000 cash points, day 2 if you check in again you get another 20,000 cash points, so you can spend that on whatever we're gonna get in the cash shop, right? Another thing to remember is that party finder exists. If you press, I believe it is Ctrl-Z, it was, or just P, depending on the shortcuts that you're using, but it exists. And you can actually list a party, whether you're looking for members, or you can search for a party if you're just looking for a group that's already existing. And it was actually super useful during OBT1. It's gonna be the same for OBT2, and the same for launch date. So do not forget it exists. Also, do not forget about your free reset until level 40, so you can, I think you can reset as many times as you want. You can experiment with builds. It's gonna be super cool to just kind of give yourself a little bit of a different approach the very first time you're making the character, kind of try out maybe something different that you haven't tried before. It's a good thing to try. Do not quote me on the you can get unlimited resets. I know you get at least one. I haven't reset because I'm the kind of guy that doesn't really reset. The one time I like decide on a build, that's what I go with. So yeah, that's about it. Do not forget the quest line. It's highly important you do it, even in OBT, especially if you want to level up quicker, right? If you just want to get the rewards. Maybe if you don't want to spoil it for yourself too much, do not read the dialogue or something, but most people do not read the dialogue anyway. Alright, that is it, and thank you so much for watching. Here's a shout out to Limbed from the guild, or he's actually the guild leader of Pain in Europe. I'm gonna link his guide in the description because it's very complex. There's a lot more stuff, that I haven't mentioned. I just used some information that I wanted from it. He kind of presents it in a very nice and understandable way as well, which is kind of crazy. Includes screenshots, all of that stuff, so I highly recommend you check it out. Also, I'll be putting a link to midgardhub.com with some of the useful tools in it, and the database that I made, and for the items and for the monsters, all that good stuff. Leave a comment, say what class are you gonna try. I think for the OBT2 I'm myself gonna try an archer this time, maybe a merchant, maybe an archer, so it's either one of those two. And I'll see you soon in a couple days.